Hi, everyone. It's Brenda back again with another episode of Three Uniques. I'm really excited to introduce you to Andrea Zimmering. Hi, Andrea. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So Andrea is the founder of Bite Wellness out of Pemberton, BC. And within her business, she's a certified holistic nutritionist and a trained meditation teacher. So Andrea, tell us a little bit more about you, your business, what you do.
Thanks, Brenda. So as you mentioned, I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and a meditation teacher. I find the two pair up really well because how and what we eat has a lot to do with how and what we feel. And my business is Bite Wellness Consulting. So specifically, I support individuals who are looking for support with their nutrition, specifically if they've dealt with chronic dieting and are looking to overcome some of the challenges that they face with chronic dieting, that they find they face. Maybe they are going through disordered type eating, such as binge restrict cycles, or constant and chronic thoughts about food, that find that they can't be in the present moment and struggle a lot with just being able to enjoy their day-to-day life, and self-sabotaging behavior. So maybe they're not really sure like why they're eating when they're stressed or emotional. And these are kind of the things that I dive into with clients to help get them through some of these challenges that many of us face. Yeah.
Sure. Did you find this past year, I'm only asking for myself because there were definitely moments where I was like, at the very beginning of the pandemic, people were posting all these pictures of banana bread and sourdough. And then it was like, I felt compelled to like go out and buy more flour and do baking. But also just, maybe overindulging in wine or, other not great foods. Did you find that like with your clients that you were working with that those things were sort of coming up for them, like the stressors of the day with the pandemic and the recession and all these things that were happening on social media? Did that affect like people's eating habits?
Yeah, I think that was something that I saw and heard a lot of, is people who found this time very trying, and as a result, their eating habits changed. And I find that really interesting because how we eat can be so connected to what is happening in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for sure, during this time when stress increases and we're home more and we don't have the same schedule, that's something that was happening and is happening for people. At the same time, kind of on a similar kind of that scale and that spectrum, there was more individuals who were struggling with eating disorders that got exacerbated because of that. So there definitely was an impact between, and has been an impact between, COVID and the way that we've been eating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that part of the work that I do with clients is setting them up for this internal ability to navigate change externally that doesn't hinder their ability to take care of themselves, to nurture their body. But it's also very natural and normal to ebb and flow as life throws us these wild waves, right?
Got it. Yeah. Definitely wild waves. So tell us a little bit more about your three uniques. You're on today to share those.
Yeah. So the three that, I really had to sit and be like, what are these? This is hard. Mom, what are my three uniques? But the three that I ended up putting down were that I'm dependable, relatable was my second one.
Mm-hmm.
And the third, I kind of just, integrity was the word that came to mind. So integrity.
Lovely. Okay. So you said this was hard. What made it hard for you to come up with your three uniques?
I think it's hard because there's the way that I see myself and then the way that I believe I am. But I guess this is part of my personality where I'm like, is this how I am? Like wanting to externally check, like, am I unique this way? Or is this my quality? And I think there was that that like second, when you go to put it down or communicate with someone what makes you unique, there's that second layer where you're almost like, well, want to check. And I think that's what I found really hard. And it's also sometimes hard to just own those things that are positive about yourself. Call
Right.
it the negative bias. I want to be like, are these things, can I say these things about myself? Can I say I'm dependable? Can I say I have good integrity? So it's an interesting exercise to do, because it does stretch you
Hmm.
to be able to feel good in those positive aspects of yourself.
Yeah, and I love the fact that how you said, like, you called your mom. There's a lot of people that I've interviewed that have said the same thing. They've called friends, they've asked work colleagues, family, um, and yeah, it's just, I love what you said there about just like, can I own these things? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And there could also be another person on the planet that's dependable, relatable, and has integrity, and they're not you. So, I think that's the other thing that makes you unique, is that am I worthy enough to have like dependability as a unique? Absolutely you are. And someone else could, and like 10,000 other people could as well, but they're not you. And that's what makes you unique. So
Totally.
yeah, I think that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about dependability. Why is that unique for you?
So I think the characteristics that come with me being dependable make me well suited for the work that I do, and are the things that is a part of me that has attracted and helped me form the relationships that I've had, which has been really amazing and nourishing, both ways for me and I think for the other person. And so for me, as someone who's dependable, one, I have the best interest for the people that I am in relationship with, whether that's a client or a family member or a friend. And if they need me, I'm there for them. I do have boundaries so that I don't wear out and burn out in that meantime, but um, I make it extra important for me not to just fall off the face of the earth and not be there for someone when they need me, or communicate with them so that they know where I am or what I'm doing. And so that's a big thing that I think I've always held, is just making sure I show up for other people. And that's probably because I was really lucky and I had people show up for me, and so I know what that feels like, and then I use that, and I think it's been a natural thing for me to be able to do that for other people. And so that comes from a lot of privilege that I have, right? So that's a big piece of me being dependable for other people. I think I do take a good amount of self-care and self-awareness as well. And so when people need me, when my clients need me, when they're going through a hard time, in my as a student studying in counseling, there's something called transference and countertransference. So I think that my own self-care and awareness helps ensure that I don't that I stay within a good boundary and recognition of the client, and don't put anything on them that could be damaging for them. I do a lot of work on that, and I think in that way it creates a lot of safety between the client and myself. And so that's kind of what encompasses my attribute of being a dependable person.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
Relatability. So that's number 2 for you.
Yeah. Relatability was kind of a fun one for me, because for me, well, one, I don't mind being vulnerable at all. We see a lot more of that, or I see a lot more of it now online.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think in person is when I'm most vulnerable and relatable. But in general, I think that I really want other people to feel comfortable when they talk to me. And in particular, and as I continue to grow and depending on, as in the role of a nutritionist and having a client, it's important that my clients don't feel like I am better than them, or 100% I eat better than them, or never, eat food that isn't bad for me, or in quotes bad for me. I want to make sure that people know that I'm a human as well, and in that it creates a more comfortable relationship. And so relatability has been, I think, a big part of how I am, and how I work with other people, is not putting anything like my education or my position on a pedestal, and making that relatable and being open to talking about how, how I have gone through similar things. I mean, a lot of folks who work in helping professions often had their own battle. And so sharing that when appropriate so that the other person doesn't need to feel alone is really important for me.
Yeah.
And something that I try to do.
I love what you just said there about how sometimes the professionals that are out there helping other people have their own battles, but it's like, that's almost why they got into that work, right? I even look at it myself with my own coaching practice with some of my clients, like just around keeping things essential. And, there's times where I will just take on a lot of things. And it's like, no, I've got to get back to what's essential. I've got to practice what I'm preaching or coaching in my relationships with my clients. So that's great that you recognize you're relatable, but there's also kind of a boundary to your relatedness, right? Like you want to make sure that you're not taking on more.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And, in health in general, it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people and to have a lot of self-negative judgment. And I think this is part of what has contributed to so many challenges for people. They never feel like they're good enough. They never feel like they eat well enough, that they exercise enough, and all that self-negativity and that kind of hardship that we put on ourselves as a result of all these external messages we hear sometimes just contributes to the problem. And so sometimes we just need to break through that and kind of lessen the pressure and normalize health and wellness a little bit more. It's not always going to look like this idealistic view that we have of it, and hopefully that actually helps us. It's a little scary, but in the big picture, hopefully it helps us to start to break through some of those behaviors that actually aren't helping us just because we're so hard on ourselves. So.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. And then your third unique.
Yeah, so that was integrity. Integrity for me is being honest. Honest about, so in a professional capacity, the work I do, I try to approach the work that I do with curiosity and without certainties. If I state that I know more than you know about your own body and own self, I think I'm not practicing in integrity. So in my life, I think I've been sometimes probably overly honest and very true to my morals and values. Again, I attribute that to how I was raised and being fortunate to have, I think good role models that through their demonstration, more than even what they said to me, just how they acted, it helped me to be able to connect with my morals and values and stay true to them. And so I think as a result of having that integrity, and this is when you phone a friend and ask them about your qualities, it's given me, I have heard, maybe a sense of groundedness for the person who experiences me. And so in that regard, I can create a safe space for another person. There's a lot of trust building that happens, whether that's professionally in the capacity of working with a client on their health and wellness, or whether that's in my relationships or family relationship, friendships, coworkers. So that would be number 3, integrity.
I love that one. I love integrity because similar to what you said, it is the honesty, but it's like how you show up. And the one thing I love about integrity too is that if you're anyone that's listening to what Andrea is saying about being a person of integrity, is that if you feel you're not, you can always just get back in integrity. So you can start today. If you haven't been honest about how you're showing up, or maybe you make promises that you don't necessarily always follow through on, and you're kind of shaky when it comes to making commitments, I always say to my clients, you can just get back in integrity today. Just recognize it and then be in integrity. Make a commitment, make a promise to somebody or yourself, and follow it through. And as soon as you know you can't follow it through, then, come clean about it, right? And it's not, no one's going to necessarily judge you for it. It's like, it's more when you don't, and you just sort of glide through life thinking that nobody cares, or it doesn't make an impact on some people. That's when you're more out of integrity.
Yeah, that's so well said and very true. I mean, it's not like I've walked this life without ever doing something that I regretted or saying something that I shouldn't have. But it's, yeah, coming back to that place and staying as close as I can, and acting in a way that feels right for me. And that's going to look different for everybody, but is a quality that I think has helped me a lot in developing and being who I am.
Thank you so much for sharing your three uniques. Like, having gone through our teacher training for meditation together when I first met you, you appeared to me to be a very grounded, like sort of well-rounded individual, solid, even acting with integrity just from when I talked to you. So the fact that integrity is woven in there, but just the dependability and the relatability, it's like, yeah, I can totally see those ones. Someone asked me that the other day too, like, you know, when I interview people around their three uniques, does it seem like they fit? And for some people I know really well, some people I'm meeting for the first time, so I can't really, you know, I'm not here to assess or give a, you know, a 10-point score like ice skating or something. It's more, you know, how that person shows up. And so I think, you know, where you can weave your three uniques into who you are every day, you're not tucking them away in a drawer and only bring them out for, you know, monumentous occasions. Like, you're actually living them every day and it's incorporated into what you do, your relationships, your work, then you're truly living your three uniques, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's taken, this past year in particular has been like a bomb dropped on
Yeah.
me. And to really own those things and to really be proud of them and to integrate them and highlight them in the work that I do. It's easy to feel like the work that you do is, you know, maybe not that important, or maybe there's a million and one other people doing it, or all those things that you can tell yourself. But it's been a big process for me over this year to recognize where, you know, where I can bring value, also recognizing where, you know, I can continue to work on,
Mm-hmm.
but where I can and do bring value. And so it's a really good exercise.
Awesome. Great. I'm glad that you went through it. So thank you for being on. I have a couple more questions though for you. So
Sure.
this one's, this might be good too, because I'm sure it probably comes up with your clients. But Andrea, when you're feeling overwhelmed or unfocused, or have lost, you know, focus temporarily, what do you do to get yourself back on track?
Overwhelm, lost focus. That happens a lot. What do I do? Um, so I can start with my most recent strategy, and
Okay.
then maybe other things will come to mind. But I have felt very overwhelmed recently. I'm in the process of redesigning my website, refocusing my service offerings, and I'm in school studying in my master's of counseling, and I'm working. And so those are not unfamiliar experiences for me. And sometimes it just feels so big, and I feel like I'm not focusing and I'm not getting anywhere. And actually very kind of simple step of starting to just log my time, and
Mm-hmm.
just and so, you know, I wake up 9 to 10 and only ask myself to commit for 45 minutes of focused work, and then I can take a break.
Right.
And instead of saying, oh no, all day I have today and I have to get all this done, I've started to really just break things out into chunks. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I feel much more settled and grounded.
Nice.
Rather than having this list of a million and one things in my head,
Yeah.
I now have a dedication to 45 minutes and choosing one activity to accomplish. So
I'm probably
that's
feeling
been
good.
massive for me.
Yeah, and probably feeling good about it, right? So at the end of the 45 minutes going, okay, you know, I'm checking this box and it feels really good and I got it accomplished and I met whatever standard or expectation I put on myself to do that.
Totally. And then that has reinforced me and made me feel more motivated to
Right.
keep going when, you know, when I've come out of feeling that overwhelm or lack of focus feeling. So it's been super helpful lately.
I think that's a really great tip, because I just remember so many times looking at job descriptions or hearing about that, like in, you know, performance conversations, like, oh, you know, you need to be a really good multitasker. And the reality is like, we're not designed to be multitasking. Even if we go back to kind of like our origins as like hunter gatherers, like, you know, if we were farming a field, it's not like you can plant corn and peas at the same time. Like, you do one, you do it really well, and then you go over to the next field and then you do the next crop. But you can't do two things at the same time. And so that's where it's like, you got to choose what you are. Like, are you a dairy farmer or are you a wheat farmer? You can't do both. And I think that's really essential, right? Focus on a few things, block the time to do it, check it off. And yeah, I mean, I think I did actually a post this morning about it. It's like, also, if you want to just take a day off, like, give that to yourself, right? That can also help with the feeling of being unfocused or overwhelmed, is that you spend all this time trying to be productive, but at the same time, you need to rest and recharge and restore yourself.
Yeah, and just to add to that, creating space for myself has been extremely difficult over the years. The meditation, going through my own training in meditation has helped with this, because occasionally I'll just have this thought, well, if I can't make 45 minutes for myself, then, then I need to do something different. And so, yeah, making sure that I take that hour for myself has been important, just to show myself that there is time, make space for myself, show myself there is time to get things done. It does help for sure.
Yeah. And even in those 45 minutes, you're sitting, you're breathing. Again, like, you're not climbing a mountain, you're not taking on some big achievement. It's like you're sitting, you're breathing, you're just investing in your physical self, which is cool.
Totally.
Have you read any books lately, or something that you would recommend to people that are listening that you really think like help embody some of those three uniques that are important to you, or things that you like to sort of double down and learn more about that, that you think would benefit anyone that's listening today?
Yeah. Books. I've been reading a lot of textbooks and now I'm reading a book, fictional book. So let me think about that.
Or a podcast?
Yeah, our podcast for sure. A lot of what I've been doing lately has been very like profession focused. Like, I'm listening to a lot to Food Psych by Christy Harrison. She's does a lot on intuitive eating. But other ones, I mean, I love How I Built This, just for entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And I find hearing those stories, and a big one in there is resilience. A big theme that comes through that one is resilience. And I always really enjoy listening to those stories. I find that it makes me feel a sense of, we can get through anything, it's normal to get hit with hard things, whether that's, in your business or in your life. And you can kind of pull from that podcast a little bit of something. I mean, right now I'm actually working through some of Gabrielle Bernstein's offerings. She's kind of newer to me. A friend introduced me to her work, and it's definitely a little bit different than I've done in the past, but I've been enjoying it, and just seeing how that can help create positivity, increase positivity, and continue to enhance the skills and the uniques that I just mentioned. Right. Yeah, and then, I mean, in terms of, I think mindfulness has been a big component to staying true to who I am, to being able to create space for myself and be able to kind of not enhance, but cultivate and craft these qualities I mentioned. And so Jon Kabat-Zinn is a great author, and Wherever You Go, There You Are is a book I read not super recently, but I think that was the last probably mindfulness meditation book I read, and I really love that one, and it's always one that I come back to. And so
that's a great one. I have it just on Audible, so I can just even listen to it in the car sometimes if I just need it.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's kind of timeless, and I recommend it to pretty much everybody.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, thanks so much for being on today and sharing your three uniques with us.
Thank you, Brenda. This was really awesome.
And where can we find out more about you? So for Bite Wellness, where can people, check it out, or even if they want to talk to you about your services and your offerings, where would they find you?
Totally. So my website is www.bitewellness.ca. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is just @bitewellness. And if you want to email me, I'm always available, Andrea@bitewellness.ca.
Okay, great. We'll make sure that we have those in the show notes as well so people can find you.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye now.